I'd like to call to order the meeting of the Planning Economic Development Committee for October 17th, 2022. Would the clerk please take roll call?
Chairman Sipes.
Here.
Vice Chairman Beck.
Here.
Trustee Kidd.
Here.
Mr. Trickey.
Here.
Mrs. Bailey.
Here.
Mrs. Miller.
Here.
6 present.
Thank you. We have a quorum. First on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the October 3rd, 2022 meeting. Do I have a motion to approve?
So made.
Second.
I have a motion by Trustee Kidd and a second by Mrs. Bailey. Are there any additions or corrections? Oh, I'm sorry, Mrs. Miller. Are there any additions or corrections? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Minutes have been approved. Next, I present ordinance 5022, a zoning map amendment for the agricultural district to the single-family resident district at 8702 Ruby Lane. May I have a motion, please?
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Trickey and a second by Trustee Beck. We have staff report on this one and also on the ordinance 5122, please, or for the same.
Yep, I'll report on both together. They both relate to the parcel the North Park Public Water District is creating by combining 2 of their parcels and a portion of the land they're getting from the Harlem Community Center. The issue is that I cannot approve creation of this new parcel because it is zoned agricultural, but it is too small to be a conforming ag lot. This is why they've petitioned for this zoning change to the single-family residential district. The second issue is that the minimum lot width at the road frontage in R1 zoning should be at least 60 feet wide. This newly created lot would have only 23 feet of frontage. This is why they've also petitioned for the variance from minimum lot frontage to allow this reduced width. And I want to point out that everything about this property now is non-conforming, but somehow the property was created and a public water well was put there. It's already too small and it already doesn't have enough frontage. It's actually becoming a larger lot, but it's still non-conforming. So they just want to make this parcel larger to accommodate some well improvements that they have planned, and the zoning change and the variance are really necessary so the village can allow creation of this new parcel. So staff recommends approval and the Planning and Zoning Commission voted to recommend approval. And these items are also on tonight's board agenda. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions or discussions? Is the applicant present, would like to address the committee? Please state your name and address, please.
Chad Hunter, North Park Public Water, 1350 Turret Drive, Machesney Park.
Thank you. Do we have any questions for the applicant, or would you like to make a comment?
Yeah, we're just looking to do some future planning for our Well 3 expansion site on that site. So we've acquired some property from HCC, and this is just to make it conforming with the village ordinance.
Okay, would you like to make a comment on 5122 too, or?
Same thing, just, trying to have it conform with the village ordinance with a special variance.
Okay, any questions? Seeing none, thank you very much.
Thank you.
So 5022, roll call, please.
Mrs. Miller.
Aye.
Mrs. Bailey.
Aye.
Mr. Trickey.
Aye.
Trustee Kidd.
Aye.
Vice Chairman Beck.
Aye.
Chairman Sipes.
Aye.
6 ayes.
Thank you. That'll go to tonight's board meeting with a positive recommendation. Next is ordinance 5122, a variance for the minimum lot frontage requirements at 8702 Ruby Lane. May I have a motion and a second, please?
So be. Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Trickey and a second by Trustee Kidd. We had comments, staff report. Is there any questions or concerns? Seeing none, can we take roll call, please?
Mr. Trickey.
Aye.
Mrs. Bailey.
Aye.
Mrs. Miller.
Aye.
Chairman Sipes.
Aye.
Vice Chairman Beck.
Aye.
Trustee Kidd.
Aye.
6 ayes.
Thank you. Ordinance 5122 will go to tonight's board meeting with a positive recommendation. Next, I present ordinance 5222, a variance for commercial design standards for exterior building materials at 10003 North 2nd Street. May I have a motion, please, and a second?
So made.
Second.
I have a motion by Trustee Kidd and a second by Mrs. Bailey. We have staff report, please.
Yep, this variance is to allow a new building at Machesney Crossings that would not comply with our commercial design standards regarding the exterior building materials. Our standards say that the majority of the exterior for new commercial buildings should be of masonry materials. This proposed building's exterior is mostly all glass windows with some ephes. This would be a 3-tenant building straight west of Old Navy, closer to North 2nd Street, and it would bring new dining options to the village, so we're excited about that. And honestly, even if the building here did comply with our design standards, which were adopted back in 2016, it wouldn't match the rest of Machesney Crossing. So staff does recommend approval of this variance. It's going to be an attractive-looking building. And the Planning and Zoning Commission voted to recommend approval, and this item is also on tonight's board agenda. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions or concerns? Is the applicant present? Seeing none, can we please take roll call?
Vice Chairman Beck,
Aye.
Trustee Kidd,
Aye.
Mr. Tricky,
Aye.
Mrs. Bailey,
Aye.
Mrs. Miller,
Aye.
Chairman Sipes.
Aye.
6 ayes.
Thank you. Ordinance 5222 will go to tonight's board meeting with a positive recommendation. Next, I present ordinance 5322, a variance from minimum parking requirements, 9718 Forest Hills Road. May I have a motion in a second, please?
So made.
Second.
I have a motion by trustee Beck and a second by Mrs. Miller. Grab staff report, please.
Yep, Midwest Packaging would like to put a canopy up along part of the front of their building to have a covered area there for staging products and temporarily storing them. However, this covered area would no longer be used for parking, which then makes the site deficient from our parking requirements. Based on their building size, they should have at least 128 parking stalls here. But this area to be covered has not been used for parking, and there just are not that many employees per shift for it to be needed for parking. This variance would allow the reduced number of parking stalls here. Staff recommends approval with the condition that at least 78 parking stalls remain, which is what they're left with after removing those stalls under the canopy. The Planning and Zoning Commission voted to recommend approval with that condition as well, and this item is also on tonight's board agenda.
Thank you. Are there any questions or discussions? And the applicant is not present, so can we have roll call, please?
Mrs. Bailey,
Aye.
Mrs. Miller,
Aye.
Mr. Tricky,
Aye.
Trustee Kidd,
Aye.
Chairman Sipes,
Aye.
Vice Chairman Beck.
Aye.
6 ayes.
Thank you. Ordinance 5322 will go to tonight's board meeting with a positive recommendation. Next are reports. Are there any reports? Seeing none, is public comment. Is anyone in the audience like to speak to the committee for the good of the village? Seeing none, I'll ask a motion to adjourn.
So made.
Second.
I have a motion by trustee Kidd and a second by Mrs. Bailey to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. We are adjourned. Thank you.